YouTube, Kamen Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kamen Rider Gavv episode 19. So this honestly was a pretty good episode. It felt very strangely paced, like very fast. You know, this doesn't feel like a traditional 2 or 3-parter. I think it's more of a 4-parter based on the preview for next week, because I mentioned that last week's episode kind of felt like an in-between, and this felt the same. There was definitely bigger reveals, but it felt like the meat and potatoes of the episode was this fight between Gavv and Vlam. Did I say that right? I thought I mixed them up for a second. That was the main focus of it. Everything else just kind of flew by, and it made it feel like very weirdly structured as an episode with a beginning, middle, and end. Obviously, we pick up with Gavv having saved Honto. He brings him to, what's this dude's name? I wrote it down. Kenzo. He looks like he could be Kiji Brother's, like, evil twin, except I think Kiji Brother is his own evil twin, but he very much reminds me of Kiji Brother from Dawn Brothers, and I've thought about that for a while. So he kind of puts 2 and 2 together that Gavv is Gavv, and then he sneakily steals a hair sample, so that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, for his research purposes, for whatever happens with that, but also it puts that in play for possibly how Honto's gonna find out that Gavv is a granite. Like, maybe this Kiji guy, or what Kenzo, I already forgot his name because of Kiji Brother. Maybe he thinks Honto knows that Gavv is a granite, so we'll have to see. So that was rather interesting. Also, it's interesting that Neville, or whatever his name is keeping Vlam a secret from his family, because Longo and the others don't know, like, that he's working with them. They're just like, oh, it's another granite hunter. That was kind of interesting. The main way we get Gavv to this fight is he's actually still investigating this other missing person they couldn't find. And I'll just say a couple things that I really like how they always use the Gachizo for investigations. I think that's just really fun and clever. And it was also cool just to see some scenes of him driving around on the bike in civilian form. Just, I don't know, I always just like scenes like that. It gives a classic grounded rider show feel. So meanwhile, he runs into Vlam at the school where he's turning a bunch of people into dark treats. And there's this interesting beat where he, like, makes them happy before it happens, even though it never ends up happening. I'm curious what that's about. Is it a part of mercy? Is it a way to make the treats, like, less good somehow because they're not in despair? It's funny because when it first happened, I'm like, oh, he's making them laugh. That's the opposite of screams. And then I'm like, that's gasoline. That's from Boom Boonger, because I was making that connection of that Monsters Inc. ass plot over on Boom Boonger. But anyway, we get this fight here, and the fight was great. It was a really unique fight because we had a bit of civilian fight action in the school, and I thought, like, okay, we're gonna have the classic, someone's gonna punch somebody and then they're gonna, you know, fall out into a quarry or something. But they wound up fighting in the school, which was really fun. It didn't make for, like, a hugely acrobatic effect fight, but it made for a really unique fight in a unique location, because we're so used to seeing the same 5-7 locations in Toku. It's just really cool going from civilian fight to the rider fight. I just really like that a lot. But then this is when we get their whole backstory. Is I don't know why, missed the scene last week where it alluded to his brother being hooked on dark treats, but that's basically what happened. He's infiltrating Stomach Inc. to get his revenge for his brother who got hooked on dark treats, which it's kind of crazy. And then even when he's going over, like, oh, I need to do jobs for Longo and stuff, like how much of a metaphor this is for drug addiction. Like, it's not quite the same dark tone as Gavv, but it's crazy that it's always the series that are about food that are dealing with dark subject matter. Like, that's honestly hilarious. Like, I was just thinking, like, this is the most ultimate Toku show in a way. You have this storyline effectively about drug addiction, and you have a pudding and a gummy bear fighting each other. It's just amazing. Like, I honestly love it so much. But it's really interesting that all of the writers' motivations come down to a family member being wronged by Stomach Inc. It's like they're all going to unite when they find out all their mother's names were Martha. Part of me was thinking this is kind of redundant compared to their backstories, but I'm like, I bet this is what unites them, because Gavv really brings an olive branch out to him. Like, Vlam's pretty hardcore. Like, he's like, even goes after Gavv after he realizes that he wasn't involved, but Gav's like, no, we can help you. And I like that. I'm sure we're going to get later Gavv helping Vlam realize the error of his ways and becoming kind to people or something. But I like that Gavv didn't give a generic speech about, like, oh, you gotta treat humans with respect or whatever. Like, he just strictly appealed to Vlam's motivations about his brother. And I thought that was nice, because a lot of other Toku protagonists would be like, no, you have to protect the smiles of people because dentists. I like that he wasn't judgy about it. I think probably because he has similar motivations. One thing I do really like about this all being out is the kind of dynamic change with Vlam. Like, I'm still hoping they don't fast track it so much that they're all working together really soon, because I think it's interesting to have a little bit of push-pull. But the dynamic of him realizing what he's become is really interesting in regards to, you know, part of me always just wants to see an evil ranger or a rider stay evil. I never thought Vlam was going to stay an evil character. But part of the reason I'm a little bit more on board with him changing sides a little sooner is I really like that part where him and Gavv are fighting and he makes him realize, like, in his efforts to stop them, he's kind of become them. Like that scene at the end of Black Panther, you have become them! Like, he's gotten so deep into trying to stop them that he's helping their cause. He's getting them more dark treats, and he's hurting people, and he's kind of become the villain of the story. He's become them, and I thought that was interesting. It also reminded me of maybe a bad example for some people because I know it's just the coolest to hate on Star Wars, but how can you hate on Skeleton Crew? Neil is pure joy. But this isn't about Skeleton Crew. But the example it reminded me of was the Reva character from the Obi-Wan series, where she became an Inquisitor to get revenge on Vader, and then wound up effectively becoming like Anakin was when he executed Order 66. And it reminded me a lot of that, and just the realization of what he had become. And I think that's really cool and adds some layers to his character and how you can get lost in revenge. I thought it was stupid of him, of Shoma, to say, I worked for them, for Stomach Inc. And that made me curious though, because obviously we know he wasn't a granite hunter like Vlam thought, but did he do any work for them? I was just kind of under the impression he was like locked away in a tower like Rapunzel until all this happened, and then, you know, the surgery stuff, but I was never under the impression he did anything for them. Maybe that was just poor phrasing on his part. It certainly was poor phrasing in the sense that Vlam really went after him hardcore after that. He was like, where are they? Swear to me! I am surprised about how fast this is unraveling. Like, it seems like next week we might even have Vlam fighting with Gavv. Like, I thought this dynamic would go on longer. We'll see how it goes. So far, the show hasn't really disappointed me in that regard. But it had me a little worried just because it was reminding me a bit of Sakito over on Boom Boomger, where we had this interesting dynamic of this new X Factor sort of antagonist-ish presence, and then they fast-tracked it and it was over. So I certainly hope that doesn't happen, but it definitely humanized them really quick, and so I'm interested to see where that goes. And with Gavv making an alliance with him, I'm curious how that's going to play with Honto, because before he even knows that Shoma is a granite, he's going to see him buddy-buddy with this guy, and he just assumes all granite are bad. So I'm really interested to see that dynamic, especially when he learns of the different motivation, because this is probably the most human granite he's met outside of Shoma, of course unknowingly, where he has this very tangible family motivation. So I'm really interested to see that dynamic. And also just that reminds me of how cool it is to see the monster just transforming, like, because that's his base form. I just think that's really cool. People were bringing up some pseudo examples. I can't believe of like past monster transformations, and it is a bit different, but I can't believe I didn't think about Vice. Again, a bit different, but still I can't believe I didn't think about that. And I guess, oh my god, what was his name? Was it not Veil? Veil was the name of the rider, right? Was it? Crimson Veil. That was another one where it was a monster turning into a rider. But still, it's pretty crazy to see one of the main riders transform there. But yeah, really good episode. I really liked it. It did feel oddly paced as an episode, but just in terms of the good parts of it, like that real center part of the fight was really good, both in terms of the fight itself was really cool, but I like the revelations and I think it will make things interesting. I hope they don't kumbaya fast track everything too much, because I think there's interesting dynamics to be had, but then again, we still have Honto to deal with. But I'm really liking the Vlam character a lot. Also, just another random thing I mentioned is I like how his outfit is kind of stealthy black, but he just peacocks hardcore. Like Shoma's able to spot him really easily. He's like, oh, it's Vlam, because who else is dressed like an evil fisherman? Anyways, guys, that's about it for this one. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.